So first of all, here we are looking at some shots from a recent wedding. These are all taken with the 50mm 1.2 manual focus lens. I'm not saying they're all shot at 1.2, I'm not saying they're all shot wide open, but they are obviously all manual focused. And I just love the look that this lens gives me. You may not. Obviously photography is very much about personal preferences and personal choice, but let me just zip through a few. I think it's going probably going back to my childhood and my teenage years and 20s, when obviously I was shooting with film, and just getting that same sort of look and the same feeling that those photos gave me. And we just keep zipping through. There's one or two that I really do like. That one I like. I think there is an even better one somewhere, but you get the idea. So as you can see, a wide variety of shots. We've got indoors, the ceremony, portrait shots, and just, you know, kind of documentary, this is what's happening at my wedding type shots. All manually focused. So let's now look at Lightroom, and what we're going to look at is a shot I took in the kitchen, and you'll see why in a second. Two shots, both shot with the 50mm 1.2 lens, and one is shot, I'm not sure which one it is, let me show you. But this one is shot wide open. And because I'm recording the screen, apologies for the Lightroom being a bit slow. This is shot wide open. I'm focused on this timer, and this is exactly the same shot where I've stopped down to, I think it was probably F2. So not an awful lot stopped down, but we'll look at the difference in the images in a second. The first thing, the main thing that I notice is the bokeh in the background here. There's not actually lights, it's just obviously the sun or light coming through the trees. At F2, if we look closely, that's what it looks like when it comes into focus. There we go. That's what it looks like at F2, whereas wide open at 1.2, if I move up to the same place, for me this is much more pleasing, and that is just the difference between 1.2 and F2. It's a huge difference, and I haven't got it here, but I did some comparisons with the 50mm 1.4 G lens, and that looks much more like this. It's not as soft, as creamy as nice as this shot. So you're thinking sharpness. Well, let's have a look at sharpness. I've applied some presets, and I'll explain this in a second. Some presets and a radial filter to both of these shots. Let me get rid of those. So we've reset absolutely as it came out the camera. This is the shot at let's do the shot at f1.2. And we'll zoom in 100% on the clock. Now, just bear in mind how big that clock is in the actual shot. It's, you know, this is wide open. This is 1.2 from a 20-year-old plus manual focus lens. No, more than that, isn't it? It's a 40-year-old design manual focus lens. For me, if I'm photographing people, that sort of level of sharpness is actually okay. if we go to the F2 shot, then we definitely have a huge step up in sharpness, in contrast, in it just, yeah. If you're into sharpness at f2, this lens is wonderful. It really is superb. But as I say, it's more for me about the overall look of the photo, and I much prefer this 1.2 one. Is there anything we can do sharpness wise to get this to look better? And how do I process this if it were a wedding photo? I don't think I've ever done one quite like this, but anyway, I've got various presets, and one of these is called Leica Color. And this preset, I love the look of Leica photos, and you might argue this isn't a Leica look. This is my interpretation of what sort of shots I would get if I had a Leica camera with a very fast 50mm lens on. So it's actually lifted the shadows and dropped the highlights and the whites. It's put a little bit of texture and clarity in. There's not much else. I've done nothing to the sharpness. Where are we? Sharpening, I've taken all the sharpening off. Some noise reduction, just in case we've got a fairly high ISO shot there. A little bit of playing around with the colours and the saturation, just to get that look. So on the sharpness side, this won't have done anything to this. It won't have made it any sharper at all. But I've then got a radial filter, which I always apply in combination with that preset. And the radial filter, you won't be surprised to know, is called Leica. And this again plays around with some of the settings. It does add quite a lot of sharpness, a little bit of saturation, some dehaze and a bit of texture and that kind of thing. And I just apply that to wherever I think, well, whatever I want to be the centre of attention, basically. And that's it. There's my finished picture. So to get through a couple of hundred wedding photos doesn't take me too long. If that's all I've got to do, I just click that to add the preset, put the radial filter on, and move on to the next photo. And what that does is it definitely improves the definition. I'm not going to say the sharpness. It improves the definition on the 1.2 shot. And it gets it, in my view, to a level where, for something that far away, is certainly acceptable, and we keep the look and the feeling that we get from a 1.2 shot. So when I'm shooting at a wedding, I am quite happy to shoot at 1.2. I know the photo is going to be a little bit, in many people's eyes, soft, but with a bit of processing in Lightroom, I can get it to be acceptably sharp. So just remember what this looks like. And then what this looks like. This is the f2 shot. And whilst there is a difference, I can live with that difference. And by the way, if we go back to the 1.2 shot, and instead of using colour, if we go to black and white, then we get an image which looks certainly sharper and clearer than the colour photo. And actually looks even better than the colour version for this sort of shot. Sometimes it's about colour, sometimes it's about light, and sometimes it's about light and shade, sometimes it's about colour. If it's light and shade, which I think probably this one would be, then that would be a shot I'd be very happy. Should someone want a photo of their kitchen timer, I think I'd be quite happy to give them that as a photo of their kitchen timer. So that, I hope, has been helpful, guys. Think about manual focus lenses. They have something to offer, they really do. And in the next couple of weeks, I'll be out doing some, now weddings have slowed down a bit, I'll be out doing some, I was going to call it street photography, some urban photography, using exactly that lens, and I'll show you behind the scenes and what I do and how I do it and the photos I produce. Take care and enjoy your photography. Cheers for now.